tell you, I don't care how much money you got. I don't care what position you hold. I don't care how much education you got. If we can't protect a child walking down the street in Ferguson and protect him and bring justice, all you got don't matter to nobody but you.
Well, the news business is one that thrives far too often on sensationalism and the need to get things out there first. This despite the fact that we as journalists are taught, most of us at least, that it's always more important to get the story right than get it out there first. That means checking and double-checking sources for accuracy, thus ensuring you get the correct version before all the hyperbole. Keep that in mind. Pleasure to welcome back to MidPoint the media and pop culture commentator and guru for the website Mediaite, Joe Concha, joins us again. Joe, how are you today?
How are you, Ed?
It's another day in paradise, my friend. Then again, I say that every day, especially when it's Friday. And you understand that, I'm sure. Let's get right to it here. Al Sharpton. We played a little Al Sharpton coming in here right now, and there is a lot of question now, as Al Sharpton is considered to be an activist by many, and he is also employed by MSNBC as a nightly talk show host. Is that, in your opinion, a conflict of interest?
Well, it is on many levels, Ed. And, you know, the first being a Politico story that came out last week spoke about Al Sharpton and his direct ties to the White House. He exchanged emails on an almost daily basis with Valerie Jarrett, who some called the de facto president, certainly has great influence with President Obama. Also speaks regularly with Attorney General Eric Holder, and then, of course, frequently, according to that article, visits the White House himself. So he's basically serving as a sounding board for the Obama administration, and that's no longer journalism. It's not even opinion journalism. It's strict propaganda, and that's what makes that so dangerous, that relationship alone. And then, we can talk about Ferguson as well.
Does he damage credibility, or that word itself about credibility, because it doesn't make what difference the organization is anymore. Credibility with viewers certainly has become something that's been a little fuzzy in recent years, certainly with certain cable outlets, and then you have all the rumor sites that exist on the web right now. So what about that word credibility?
Well, with media, Ed, certainly it's at an all-time low. There are certain occupations like used car dealer or lawyer, or ones that used to be below media standing. But I believe it was Gallup that did a poll on where they rank folks in certain professions, and doctors and nurses and police officers got the highest rankings, and media is nearly near the bottom. So when we talk about credibility, and Al Sharpton and MSNBC in general, certainly what you're getting with Al Sharpton is what they're saying. It's like, look, we know he's an advocate. We know that he goes out and he will attend a rally and then interview people that were at the rally afterwards, or in this case, in Ferguson, interviewing Michael Brown's parents on his show, but never showing another side. So, again, it goes back to propaganda, and it goes back to the fact that, Al Sharpton isn't even giving MSNBC any kind of return on investment. In other words, you would think then, with a story like Ferguson, he would be able to get a nice ratings bump out of that and get out of third place in a three-horse race where he is a distant third. Instead, those ratings have remained flat, and he gets beat by Bret Baier by a 4-1 margin, Will Blitzer on CNN by a 2-1 margin. So you add all that up, he's not making any money for you in terms of ratings. He's not selling any more advertising for more expensive rates. And then there's the conflict of interest I mentioned with the White House, and obviously with holding rallies and then doing a show later that night to only report one side. All of it just comes back and eventually does hurt a network like MSNBC and NBC News, for that matter, because he goes on Meet the Press. And the ratings show that, and certainly MSNBC is the least trusted name in news right now because of that.
Wait a minute, say that again. MSNBC, you say, is the least trusted name in news right now?
Yes. I believe it was Pew that did research on that, and they ranked at the bottom.
Now, with regard to investment, you mentioned that. There's still got to be a big question about where Al Sharpton's money comes from, because he travels constantly, and there's always been a lot of talk that he goes to a lot of these places seeking donations. That in itself should be a problem for an organization that hires somebody, should it not?
Yeah, I mean, you're making my point for me. That's true. Where the money comes from, that's a very good question. I'm sure that his TV salary is obviously a nice 6-figure, may even go to 7-figure. I've never seen the contract. But before the Reverend was on TV, then how exactly was he supporting himself? If you're a Reverend and you're attending rallies, it's not like you're charging tickets, money for it or anything like that. So that's always been a mystery, and it's a question I can't answer, but I'm sure some of the folks at home probably can come up with a couple of guesses as to how he supported himself before he got a TV career.
All right, now let's talk about something else with regard to TV and connected to Ferguson right now. And I even stopped a little bit of this, and I've been in this business for 7,000 years. CNN in the morning at one show recently had an audio tape that they said was from Ferguson, but they were not able to substantiate it, yet they still played it. Now, for anybody who hasn't heard it, here exactly is what it was. Listen up. Hopefully. Do we have
CNN cannot independently verify the authenticity of the tape and has reached out to the FBI for confirmation of their interview with the Ferguson resident who says he made the recording. Here it is. Listen.
You are pretty. You're so fine. Just going over some of your videos. How could I forget?
How dangerous is that, Joe? Certainly because they said they cannot verify it, yet still went with it, and it seems that they're starting to backtrack a little bit on it, and even the Associated Press did not want to touch that tape for a long time, and I still don't believe they do it this time. Everybody's backing off.
Yeah, CBS also was offered access to that tape, and they turned it down. But the problem is that CNN did this all backwards, and what they should have done was, for instance, they have some in-house experts that they interviewed 36 hours after they played that tape, and one of them said, yeah, I think CNN's getting punked, and another said, yeah, I first time I heard it, I thought it was a hoax. So what they should have done was, for starters, call your in-house experts, play the tape for them, and say, hey, guys, what do you think about this? And if they came back with the answers they did on the air 36 hours later on their morning show, they probably would have, at least if I'm running the network, I say, well, we certainly can't run it. And then when Don Lemon says, well, I'm reaching out to the FBI for confirmation, well, why not wait for that confirmation first before going to air with it? So what they did was they didn't follow the old carpentry rule, which is to measure twice and cut once. And because you can't put the toothpaste back in the tube and you can't put Humpty Dumpty back together. And once that tape is out there, you allow people to draw their own conclusions. And if it ends up being a fake or it isn't authentic, then you really look horrible as a news organization. But even if it is proven to be authentic and the timestamp on it at least matches up when the shooting happened, it still does not look good for CNN. So the question then goes to why would they do it? Well, obviously it's a big exclusive, it's a scoop, and more people will watch that network as a result because CNN is leading the news organization dispensing of information on this story. But I think social media now, Ed, is really putting a lot of pressure, and this isn't justifying CNN's behavior in this case, but it's putting a lot of pressure on news organizations to go with stories that they may not be fully ready to, or in this case, not authenticated in terms of the audio, because the speed out there is so fast. No one wants to be second in these sort of races to get information out there. But in the quest to be fast, unfortunately, or faster, I should say, accuracy is then taking a back seat. And boy, yes, you use the word dangerous, and that's exactly the word I would use as well.
And finally, about a minute and a half that we have left here, let's turn to something a little lighter. Burlington, Vermont, a restaurant there decided to take down a bacon advertisement that had become the center of a media online backlash. Here's a quick soundbite from that story right here. Okay. Well, I'm told it's not a soundbite. It actually is just a little bit of a piece of tape there. And there...
Her right to believe what she wants, but I'm pretty sure the First Amendment extends to bacon.
So here we go now. This is a little bit of a... There's a woman there who didn't like the sign, yield for sneakers bacon here. So apparently they took the sign down. A little bit of a media overkill here, perhaps, Joe?
Well... the customer is always right, I guess. I worked as a waiter for about 3 weeks of my life at Friendly's, which I can't recommend to anybody. But
okay.
What do they get? They get teenagers and they get old people, and those are two people who don't tip. But that's for another segment, another time. Look, the problem is by taking down the sign, they may have thought that they were going to let the controversy go away, but now more and more people are angry that they they allowed one customer to tell them exactly what they should and shouldn't be doing, and now there's a backlash against the restaurant. So if they just let it be, I think it would have been better than doing what they did, and now it's hurting their business, unfortunately, it looks like.
Yeah, apparently the person there said the woman described herself as a vegan and a member of a Muslim household, called the sign offensive in a post on Front Porch Forum, I guess. Yeah, don't worry about it. I don't think the people at Friendly's are going to call you anytime, Joe. So just in case you're wondering, if you need,
not after my performance.
If you need that job again, Joe, I think you just blew it right here as far as Friendly's is concerned. Joe, it's always a pleasure, my friend. Listen, have yourself a good weekend. Go watch some TV, and we'll join you again next week.
Going to have some bacon now. Thank you. I appreciate it.
Some for everybody, Joe. Share. Come on. All right, thanks a lot. Later on this hour, ever want to know exactly what your elected officials are getting in the way of gifts? Now you can. And after the break, why would anyone want to lend the city of Detroit a dime, much less $275 million? The city of Detroit, that is. Stick around. MidPoint continues right here.